The flames licked the night sky. Buildings collapsed one after another behind him, black smoke rising like curses into the heavens. Men were either on their knees or running for their lives, their screams drowned by the hell that broke before their eyes. And in the center of it all stood Jungkook, leather coat draped over his broad shoulders, hands stained with the blood of loyalty betrayed. He was a god of destruction, untouchable, unstoppable. One of his men approached him carefully, half bowing. "It's done, boss." Jungkook nodded once, stepping through the wreckage as if he owned the ruins themselves. His empire was built on fear, and tonight he reminded them why. His phone buzzed in his pocket, the name flashed across the screen. Everything else fell away. "Angel calling." He answered instantly, his voice low and dark. "Jiggy, baby." He breathed, a sharp contrast to the monster he had been a second ago. "Jungkook?" Her voice gemmed sweetly through the speaker, soft, warm, like a balm to his bleeding knuckles. "You busy? When are you coming home?" He frowned. To anyone else, she sounded normal, but to him, not to the man who could read every twitch to her soul. There was something off, a tiny tremor hidden under her usual bubbly tone. Fear. It wrapped around her words like shadow. Jungkook's jaw clenched, his hand clenched into a fist tight, the blood dripping from his knuckles anew. "JK, I'll be there in 20," he said, voice dangerously even. He didn't ask what was wrong. He didn't need to. The devil had heard the plea of his angel. At home, she was sitting cross legged on the couch when he arrived. Her face lit up when she saw him, but he didn't miss the way her fingers tightened around the blanket. JK strode to her in three long steps, crouching in front of her, his rough hands cupping her cheeks. "JK, tell me." Ah, he knew. Of course he knew. That was the thing she loved about him. "Wine, there's this guy at my college. He's been kind of obsessed lately, following me around campus, always finding reasons to talk to me when I brush him off." She started softly, an angelic presence in his demonic world. "Wine, today he cornered me behind the library. He said, 'You think you're safe because you're pretty? I run things you can't even imagine, sweetheart. You should be careful who you reject. In my world, no one tells me a no without consequences.'" Jungkook was silent, the kind of silence that made the air feel colder, but his hand on her cheek remained gentle, like she was made of glass. She tried to lighten the mood, her voice trembling with a laugh. "Wine, he said he's from Mafia, and that he'll make me regret not being polite to him." She pouted, playing with the hem of his shirt. "Wine, is ever Mafia like that? You don't say those things to me." Keeping that power, she snuggled into him. her arms wrapping around him, chin resting on his chest as she kept her head tilted up to maintain an eye contact. Wine, you're not mad, right? I mean, he doesn't know who you are. He just thinks I'm some normal girl. At that, something in Jungkook snapped. Normal. His wife. The queen of the kingdom that people bled to kneel before. He leaned closer, his forehead resting against hers. JK, Angel, there's no war where anyone lays a finger on you and lives to brag about it. You're mine. Mine to protect, mine to love, mine to avenge. She shivered at the possessiveness in his tone, but his touch remained gentle. It was in those arms that she always felt the safest. One wasn't weak. One could protect herself, but she loved getting spoiled by him. It was him, after all, who made her used to his protection. In fact, when Jungkook came across Wan for the first time by accident, she was the first one to ever glare at him. A kind of glare who could harm no one, but she warned him with such confidence and grace, telling him to walk with his eyes open, since he bumped into her. Then she continued to wipe the lipstick mark which got on his shirt because she held an open lipstick in her hand. When she was rushing towards the building, his men stood at a distance, gawking at how easily a woman just glared and then touched their boss and lived. The next day in college, a crowd had gathered, buzzing with excitement. Students stood in a loose circle, many holding up their phones, whispering to each other as they waited at the center of it all the boy, Han, the same arrogant one who had been harassing Lion. Behind him, a massive banner was unfurled between two trees. Will you be mine? Bright light letters against white fabric, meant to look romantic, but the thread behind it was clear as a day. Rumors had already spread. If she said no, there would be consequences. Everybody knew he had ties to dangerous people. Han, she'll be here any second. He told his friend beside him. Han, and once she says yes in front of everybody, she knows she belonged to me. But the war had a different plan. It was not wine who entered, but a man who wasn't supposed to matter to them, a matter who was supposed to be walking cloud. Yet he brought an aura along him, which suffocated those present there. Everybody shifted uncomfortably. Jungkook didn't stop, didn't look left or right, didn't flinch under the dozens of camera phones pointed at him. He moved like he owned the ground beneath his feet. In seconds, he was standing right in front of Han. JK, you were waiting for my wife? A gasp rippled through the crowd. Wife! Whispers shot like fire through the students. Wine was married, tattooed to an unknown guy who seemed like he could end generations with a single glare. Han possessed, his mind working at a faster speed. It took him approximately 2 seconds to recognize the man before him. He has never seen the Mafia Lord in real, but he has heard the rumors. This man was exactly like the rumors he heard. Han fell directly on his knees. The boy, who was dominating everybody till a moment ago for having dangerous connections, was just on his knees. Han, please forgive me. I wasn't aware. He trembled. He placed his head on the ground. JK, you chose the wrong girl. The wrong queen. Jungkook moved Han's head up using the pointed corner of his shoe, and with that he shoved him backwards. Phone clicked, recording the fall. Gasps of shock echoed through the courtyard. Humiliated, powerless, pathetic. Exactly what he was planning for Ryan to feel. Jungkook slid his hand in his pockets and turned. One look at everybody, and they knew his woman was not to be messed with. As he walked away from there, his men arrived, grabbed Han and dragged him away regardless of the screams he let out of help. He received none. In Jungkook's word, touching who was his wasn't a mistake people lived to regret. That night, the boy learned it clearly well. Later that night, Jungkook returned home, his body humming with leftover violence, but the moment he stepped into the bedroom and saw her curled up asleep, hugging his pillow, every rough edge of him softened. He climbed into the bed carefully, wrapping his arms around her, pulling her into his chest. She stirred, mumbling sleepily. Wine, cook? JK, I'm here, baby. He whispered into her ear. Safe, untouched, his, and no one would ever dare threaten what belonged to him again.